Her face is thin and drawn, like the elongated features of certain clay sculptures. She is a woman neither young nor particularly beautiful. Her eyes have an intelligent look, but the constant spasming of her eyelids makes this hard to perceive. Her back and shoulders are permanently drawn in, as though she is seeking refuge inside her black clothes, and her fingernails are clipped back severely. Around her left wrist is a dark purple velvet hairband, the solitary point of color on an otherwise monochrome figure. Let's all read it together. The man cannot wait for the woman any longer. He moves his gaze over the baby-faced university student who sits in the same row as the woman, the middle-aged man half hidden behind a pillar, and the well-set-up young man sitting by the window, slouching in his chair. Hemos que meteros. Our. The three students read, their voices low and shy. Sos humeteros. You're singular. You're plural. The man standing by the blackboard looks to be in his mid to late 30s. He is slight, with eyebrows like bold accents over his eyes and a deep groove at the base of his nose. A faint smile of restrained emotion plays around his mouth. His dark brown corduroy jacket has fawn-colored leather elbow patches. The sleeves are a bit short, exposing his wrists. The woman gazes up at the scar that runs in a slender pale curve from the edge of his left eyelid to the edge of his mouth. When she'd seen it in their first lesson, she'd thought of it as marking where tears had once flowed. Behind thick pale green lenses, the man's eyes are fixed on the woman's tightly shut mouth. The smile vanishes. His expression stiffens. He turns to the blackboard and dashes off a short sentence in ancient Greek. Before he has time to add the diacritical marks, the chalk snaps and both halves fall to the floor. Late spring of the previous year, the woman had herself been standing at a blackboard, one chalk-dusted hand pressed against it. When a minute or so had passed, and she was still unable to produce the next word, her students had started to shift in their seats and mutter among themselves. Glaring fiercely, she saw neither students, nor ceiling, nor window, only the empty air in front of her. "Are you okay, 선생님?" asked the young woman, with the curly hair and sweet eyes, who sat at the very front of the class. The woman had tried to force a smile, but all that happened was that her eyelids spasmed for a while. Trembling lips pressed firmly together, she muttered to herself from somewhere deeper than her tongue and throat, "It's come back." The students, a little over 40 in number, looked at each other with raised eyebrows. "What's she up to?" Whispered questions spread from desk to desk. The only thing she was able to do was to walk calmly out of the classroom. Exerting herself, she managed it. The moment she stepped out into the corridor, the hushed whispers became clamorous, as though amplified through a loudspeaker, swallowing the sound her shoes made against the stone floor. After graduating from university, the woman had worked first for a book publisher, and then at an editorial and production company for a little over 6 years. And after that, she spent close to 7 years lecturing in literature at a couple of universities and an arts secondary school in and around the capital. She produced 3 collections of serious poetry, which came out at 3 or 4-year intervals, and for several years had contributed a column to a fortnightly literary review. Recently, as one of the founding members of a culture magazine, whose title had yet to be decided, she'd been attending editorial meetings every Wednesday afternoon. Now that it had come back, she had no choice but to abandon all such things. There had been no indication that it might happen, and there was no reason why it should have happened. Of course, it was true that she'd lost her mother 6 months previously.